Thank you. Well, I guess since all my colleagues addressed it, I'll give you a quick little preview of the State of the Region tomorrow. Please, if you haven't had a chance to register for that, it'd be a great opportunity to take a nap. No, I'm kidding. This has been a challenging year. It's been a challenging year for all of us. Everybody in government, everybody in private business, everybody working for a nonprofit, everybody who lives on this planet has had a tough year as a result of COVID. Yeah, I heard somebody say maybe a few months back that government employees are lucky to have a job right now. And while that may be true, I think any of us that have a job are lucky to have a job, that's for sure, because a lot of folks throughout this pandemic have lost their jobs. I just want to let the 2,850 employees of El Paso County know we're lucky to have you. I think that's truly the best way to say it. As we kind of went back through preparing for the State of the Region address and think about the things that we've done, you all, everyone to a person, 2,850 employees, have picked this region up, picked this community up, and carried it on your shoulders throughout this pandemic process. Whether it's Brian Olson, making sure our county buildings are as safe as they can possibly be to operate for citizens who have to come in and need those critical services, or even Nikki Simmons, the person I love to give grief to the most in the county, spearheading the grant process to get us $125 million in CARES Act funding, which by the way, wasn't an automatic. There was a whole application process that needed to happen, and I know that, at one point she woke up in the middle of the night, stressed. Did I actually hit send on that application before it came through? But obviously that happened, and I'll tell you, if you haven't had a chance to thank Nikki, anybody in the community, anybody that benefited from those CARES Act dollars, she's one of the people that does this without any expectation of fanfare or any expectation of notoriety. She views this as just being the person who's doing her job. But every single one of us to a person, anybody that benefited from those dollars, owes her a huge thanks for making her and her team and the entire finance department for making that happen, and then also helping us come up with a plan to get those dollars out to folks in the community. So those are just a few of the things we're going to talk about tomorrow during the State of the Region address. So please tune in if you want to find out, not just where we've been this year, but where we're heading in the future. I also want to address some of the COVID issues that we've been talking about. We talk a lot about the constitutionality of issues related to COVID, and while I think that there are some out there, nothing's unconstitutional until the court deems it to be unconstitutional. So that's one thing I want folks to keep in mind. But one of the things that the Constitution does, and the Constitution of the United States of America does this, and our Colorado Constitution is modeled off of the U.S. Constitution that way, and that's limits the powers of government officials through a system of checks and balances. You can all go back to civics and remember, what the checks and balances are. We have the three different branches of government. We have the executive, which in the case of the United States, president. At the state level, that's governors. We have the legislative branches, so it's Congress at the United States level, and we have our own state legislature here in Colorado, and then the courts. And they're all designed together to create this system of checks and balances. Here's where I think we have a massive issue. We have one person unilaterally making decisions for the state of Colorado, and that's the governor, and he's doing that unchecked. And, no doubt in my mind, he's making the best decisions that he can make based off of his life experiences and his professional experiences as well. But here's the problem. Our governor's a rich guy. Our governor's always been a rich guy. Our governor, Governor Polis, has never once struggled to put food on his family's table. So he doesn't have the perspective that Commissioner Gonzalez was talking about earlier of the small business owner who's out there saying, my options are this. My options are violating the state orders, maybe orders I don't want to violate, but my options are violating the state orders or putting food on my family's table. This is what I'm left with. This is the choice that I have. I have no other choice but to either violate these rules, because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to put food on my family's table. I think the governor would benefit from the voice of other people when making these decisions. Those other people in this case are supposed to be the state legislature. The state legislature has the obligation and the responsibility to be the check to the governor's power. Here's the problem. Can anybody in this auditorium tell me they've heard anything out of the legislature when it comes to checking the governor's powers in this circumstance? Last week, there was a special session in the state of Colorado. And in that special session, Republicans in the state legislature proposed a piece of legislation that would limit the governor's powers, the grant of emergency authority he has in these sort of circumstances. Because I don't think the Colorado Constitution, when it granted the use of emergency powers, contemplated at all that those powers could extend for months or years at a time. They're there to create a circumstance whereby when we have an emergency that pops up, the governor can act on his own until the rest of that governing body can come together in order to then become a part of the decision-making process. Well, in this circumstance, that hasn't happened. Shame on the governor for not going to the legislative branch to bring them into the discussion, but shame on the legislative branch for not demanding that they be the check to the governor's powers. Now, I appreciate my friends in the state legislature that brought up this piece of legislation during the special session to limit the governor's executive authority. But me, like numerous other people out there, knew that was going absolutely nowhere. That was going to be killed by the governor's party, the Democrats in the state legislature, and this issue was going to then be put to rest. Here's the problem. It can't end there. I have been calling, since I've been blue in the face on this board, for the legislature to stand up and demand that he give that check back to create balance in government. Demand that they have their authority, the authority constitutionally granted to them to exercise that power with the executive branch. The only way to do that, ladies and gentlemen, is to take to that third branch of government, the courts. The legislature, and it doesn't matter who it is, Republicans in the legislature, Democrats in the legislature, take this fight to the courts. You need to do that. You have an obligation to the citizens of the state of Colorado. You have an obligation to every single small business owner that is struggling to put food on their table right now, to take this fight to the courts, to demand that power, the power that belongs to you, so you can represent those people that have gone unrepresented. That needs to happen. I'm going to call once again, for the umpteenth time, on my state representative who has done absolutely nothing in this process. David Williams, sue the governor to get your authority back. Senator Owen Hill, sue the governor to make sure this legislative authority comes back. That's what needs to happen. And then until we do that, we're going to be stuck in this morass that we're in right now.